Welcome to the Lights, Camera, Rant Podcast. Your source for the latest on movies, TV shows, and video games. Get ready for ranting, raving, and reviewing. Here is your host, Lee.
Good morning, good evening, good night, whatever time that you're listening to this podcast, and welcome to Lights, Camera, Rant. Every time I say that, I instantly just think of Jurassic Park. I think, welcome to Jurassic Park. And I think that doesn't roll off the tongue as easy as with Lights, Camera, Rant, unfortunately. But as further ado, as my wonderful intro guy says, I'm your host, Lee, and welcome. And what we like to do on this podcast is we like to get into news, and we get into the reviews, which this week we are looking at Kenobi, Miss Marvel, and The Boys. If you haven't seen the latest episodes of that, please go watch them and come back and to this episode, because look, on this podcast, spoilers left, right, back of the neck. We don't hold back at all. So spoilers, left, right, and center. So before we get into the news, I would like to say a little thank you to everybody. We hit 500 followers on Instagram, and look, it might not seem big, but as a little podcast as myself, that does mean a lot. I'm very humbled by it. I'm very humbled by your interactions that you do, comment or message and share. That means a lot to me. So if you can, please like, share, subscribe to this podcast, and definitely jump onto the socials, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You guys, you know the rest. You know the spiel. So if you do jump onto them, please, and thank you a lot. It does go a long way. And I love having a discussion with you guys on movies, TV shows, and video games, different opinions. You know, it's one of the biggest things why I made this podcast, was just to have the interaction with like-minded people, more passionate people as well. And it just brings me joy when I do see someone comment and message saying, oh, that was shit, or that was really good, just to create the conversation. So it does go a long way. Another big thing that I would like to mention is that next episode 56, will be the 1 year anniversary episode of Lights, Camera, Rant, which I can't believe it's already 1 year. If you told me a year ago that this would be the 56th episode and you would have reached this point, I'd be like, yeah, sure, that's the dream to get that far, but here we are, and I've got some wonderful things planned for the 1 year anniversary episode, and not to mention, I've got some guests who are going to make an appearance to come and say hello. So definitely tune in for next week's episode for the 1 year anniversary of Lights, Camera, Rant. So without further ado, let's get into this episode, which you guys do know that I always like to start my episode. That's the good stuff. Actually, this week, usually I'm having Jameson, but I thought a little bit more courageous. I thought, let's dive into the double Jacks, Jack Daniels. So hopefully you're strapped in whatever time of day it is, and if it's the first thing in the morning, you're having a drink, that's very brave of you. Hopefully you're not driving, but if it is late in the day and you're not driving, then I hope you are having a drink with me. So let's get into all this. So where do you want to begin? Where do we get started? So let's go straight to movie news. So speaking of Scream 6, Neve Campbell, who's been with pretty much the main character for all the Scream movies. It's a horror movie, which I'm sure you heard of. Ghostface, all of it. So Neve Campbell plays Sydney. I'm sure you've heard the, what's your favorite movie, all that aspect. So Neve Campbell, she's been from Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. She's not returning for Scream 6. She announced it on her Instagram or Twitter, due to the fact that what they were offering her for the role was very little to her contribution to the franchise, which is, telling me, with an ego or anything, but I'd be pretty gutted if knowing the fact that if you are the main character for an entire franchise and they offer you something that's subpar to what you should be getting, then I probably would leave the project too. But look, not to mention the fact that it also makes more sense for her character to leave the Scream franchise, because the fact that I'm like, how in so many movies have you not died? Like, I know there's other franchises that you can compare it to, but like, how have you not died? Like, come on, stop using a knife, use a gun, speeds up a lot of things. But obviously, that's not the whole Scream franchise thing. The biggest thing about it, if you haven't watched Scream, which I highly do recommend to even watch the first one or watch Scream 4, is the fact it became from the one terrific mind of Wes Craven, who created Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think it's The Last House on the Left, I think that is. He created that too, the horror genius. Now, what was so famous about the Scream franchise was the fact it took, it helped revitalize the horror genre in the 90s, which was on a massive decline because of the fact of, sequel-itis. Funny about that. But, Scream injected a much-needed adrenaline into the horror genre in the late 90s, because what it did was that, and it's almost like a spoof, because it laughed at all the horror tropes in the past. Don't go walking alone, don't do this, or don't say, I'll be right back. It took all those elements and, made it self-aware, basically. And then with the touch of a new killer. And then, boom, Ghostface was born. 5 movies later, and not to mention Ghostface popping up in different mediums, different video games, and the rest is history. But yeah, Neve Campbell has opted out, so it'll be very interesting to see where number 6 will go in terms of that. Also, moving on, for any Blade fans. So, as we all know, the MCU is making a brand new Blade movie. Which, we got a small little tidbit in the end of Internals after the credits scene. But on July the 4th, Blade has been confirmed it will start shooting. A lot of people are very interested to see how Blade will go. Because the fact that, as we all know who have seen it, that the original Blade trilogy was massive, hyped. It was, besides probably number 3, but the first 2 were fantastic. But, it was MA, it was R-rated, and there's a whole conversation, the fact that Blade saved Marvel back in the late 90s, which is for another conversation for another day. So people are interested to see how Blade will be portrayed and how far they will go in the MCU, and trying to explain how there's been vampires in the MCU the whole time. That's another fun thing they're going to take around. Or will it be a spin on the fact that there's only vampires now because of the fact that all the cosmic scales that's been tipping because the blip and everything. So that's going to be interesting on how that's going to take. But speaking of R-rated, the writers for Deadpool 3 have said the fact that Deadpool 3 will not be Disney-fied. It will be R-rated. It will still keep that MA rating. And the fact that apparently also Kevin Feige has their unwilling support at this stage with all the concepts they've made. Kevin Feige is all for it and he's pushing for it. So the biggest thing, I'm really glad to hear that Deadpool won't be tampered like that. But the biggest question on everybody's mind is, how is Deadpool going to come into the MCU? And is he going to be self-aware knowing that this is a different... this is the Mouse House, which I'm sure he's going to make a connection and make that joke. But, how is he going to jump into... I thought it was going to be Doctor Strange. I thought there was going to be an after-credits scene where Doctor Strange didn't close a portal and Deadpool just flopped over. But no, that didn't happen. So that's so it's going to be very interesting to see where that's going to go. Still staying on the Marvel news, the tickets for Thor 4 should go on sale today, the release of this episode. So get ready for that. Get your tickets. I'm going to be purchasing this week. I can't wait to see Thor 4. And not to mention the fact that the Thor 4 review that I'll do will be a video episode. So definitely tune in for that when that comes around. And grab your tickets. Still moving on, we also got announced, still in superhero genre. Now, look, I'm in two minds for this. So, on top Phillips' Instagram, he announced that they are going to be making Joker 2. Foley Derricks, I probably butchered that title. It's the subtitle for the Joker movie. Probably butchered that. I think it's French, Yeah, not very good at that. But yeah, they've announced the Joker 2, which, look, I don't know how it's going to take. To be honest, I felt like the first Joker movie was a good self-contained story. You didn't need to add anything to it. But obviously there's a demand for it, of course, because it did so well. But my thing is, where are you going to go? You made this very grand story. Are you going to do a time jump? Will it be the Joker's rise to being the clown prince of crime and all that aspect? Which other characters are you going to try and introduce? It's all of that aspect that makes me really nervous about the whole thing. And, again, it's like me connected to DCU and the biggest thing is, was this actually needed? There'll probably be a lot of people out there be like, yes, I want to see where he's going to go. This whole world he's built. I get that, but what's he going to do? Because the Joker needs Batman. Which, look, I'll take that. Joker needs Batman because we had the Joker origin story without Batman. Yes, that worked. But where are you going to go from there? Which we're going to find out, I guess. But to this announcement, I was more like, yeah, okay, I'll watch it, but I'm just nervous to know where it's going to go, where it's going to sit. And the funny thing is, good old DC films. So we're going to have the Batman and the Joker. But then the Joker's going to have his own movie, which is not tied into the DCEU at all. It's a completely separate Joker, with a completely separate Bruce Wayne's parents dying all together. So we've got these two Batman stories filming at the same time that are not connected. Isn't that what you wanted? No, Warner Brothers. No, we don't. That's not what we wanted. You're effing shit at at this whole DC films is just a blimming mess, and it's just a joke. Honestly, at this stage, DC films is a joke. And the direction where they're going, the films they're making, it's just a fucking mess. Straight up. And I won't shy away from that. The thing is, what makes it worse is that you have, on the flip side, is you have Marvel that's a completely allocated machine down to the last dotted line on how everything's coming out, how everything's lined up, perfectly scheduled. And then you look on the other side of the fence and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Honestly, who's saying, yes, this is a good idea? Oh, that's a bad idea. I'm not to mention, it's a good way to confuse your audience, the casual viewer. If they can't understand it, they're not going to come and watch it. So you're also going to alienate an entire, you are making these films, obviously for people who love comic books and all that. But how are you also going to get to the wider audience as well? You're almost shunning them as well because it's going to get too confusing for them. But obviously a whole bunch of yes men DC Studios head office and a whole bunch of people that don't know the fuck they're doing at all. Honestly, it's a effing joke. But speaking of DC films, we we got our trailer for the first trailer, for Black Adam with The Rock. Now, look, I'm curious about it. I watched the trailer. I wasn't blown away. I was very curious about it. But I did get a whole bunch of Black Panther and Iron Man vibes. Especially Iron Man vibes with the two jets. And I was like, okay, yeah, alright. So I got big vibes about that. But the trailer didn't really blow me away going, ooh, I really want to watch this. Only pulling back, the only reason I really want to watch this is seeing The Rock play a bad guy, really. That's the main takeaway for me to going to see this movie. But the trailer, a lot of action in it. Obviously it was just a brief world premiere trailer. Obviously once we get trailer 2, we'll get a little bit more in depth. But at this stage, I'm not too sure how I feel about it. Being DC as well, as my rant, as I just said. So interesting to see where it's going to go and how it's going to do. Look, I have no doubt it's going to make a shit ton of the box office because it's The Rock, in this film. And, obviously at one point he's going to say again, the hierarchy of the DCU is about to change. Which, as I said in my last episode, the hierarchy of the DCU is a blooming mess. I couldn't tell you who the hero. I could tell you who's at the top. I could tell you who's at the bottom. Wonder Woman 2 is at the bottom. The Flash. Ugh. Flash is yeah, that's another thing. But yeah, I'm glad we had to see that in the trailer. But probably the biggest takeaway: the Rock's Black Adam suit looks incredible, and that I really do love and think that looks fantastic. They've done an excellent job on that. But it's going to be interesting to see where that's going to go in that aspect. But how it's going to go later down the track. Also, we got one of the showrunners for the prequel Lord of the Rings TV show. Mentioned the fact that the Ring of Power, that they've written out 5 seasons for the show, and they have the last scene already planned out what they're going to do. So, if this goes very well, this will be premiere on Amazon Prime. If this goes very well, guys, you're in store for 5 seasons of prequel Lord of the Rings show. So, which, I have no doubt the Lord of the Rings fans will absolutely love, because it will give them a really good extent, obviously a lot of content. So you're obviously looking at about 6 to 7 years of content for Lord of the Rings, because, compared to what we've seen in the original trilogy and the Hobbit trilogy. So for any Lord of the Rings fans, you're in store if the Amazon keeps bringing out the seasons. They've got that all planned out. Also, moving on as well, speaking of, on the flip side for Disney, rumor has it that they're going to be working on a new Dragon Ball Z movie. So, I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan. Loved it. Goku, the whole gang, the Z Fighters. For anyone listening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So apparently the rumor is Disney will be working on bringing a brand new live-action Dragon Ball Z movie. So originally Dragon Ball Z movie rights were owned by Fox, and they brought out Dragon Ball Evolution, which was utterly garbage. The movie was shit. It was a stain on the franchise of Dragon Ball Z. Completely. And an utterly joke. It completely bombed the box office for that reason. But if Disney is working on a new Dragon Ball Z movie, I think that would be bloody outstanding and fantastic. Now, this is what I did say on my Instagram, was that if they did a shared universe template, that could really work for Dragon Ball Z. So in the manga, you've got Dragon Ball, which was Goku as a kid, and you got Dragon Ball Z when he was an adult, and then you've got that had that run, and that went on to Dragon Ball GT, and then Dragon Ball Super. Well, actually, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball GT it's not considered canon. It was more of just a sequel series to Dragon Ball Z, because Akira Toriyama didn't have a show planned for after Dragon Ball Z. He planned for the Dragon Ball Z to end completely, but the fans still want something, and that's how we got Dragon Ball GT. But there's just a plethora of comics of the Dragon Ball universe, plethora of movies as well, and they deal with time travel, they deal with prequels, they deal with kids, time jumps, they deal with all of that. So to me, which did mention in a very few episodes ago, a lot actually, I think episode 4, 5 or 6, where I said the movies that demand a live action adaptation. The thing is, you could start with Dragon Ball Z, because there's multiple sagas as well. So if done right, you could have a brand new franchise on your hands that you could still pump up Disney Plus shows. You could do prequel movies. You could do sequels galore. Like, there's a lot you can do with that if done right. Which, if you go watch Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, which was big Dragon Ball Z vibes, they can do it. The CGI, everything, they can do it. So I really do hope that this is true and this is in the works and that it's a lot of attention, because in this Dragon Ball there's action, there's adventure, there's killer moments, and who does not want to see Goku turn Super Saiyan for the very first time in like an IMAX cinema with John Williams kind of orchestra kicking in of him doing that? Please tell me who doesn't want to see that, as long as it's done right. As long as it's done right, that's the main thing. But that's the main thing. Also moving on, gamer fans, rejoice! E3 will be returning in 2023 for both a digital viewing and live in person. So for anyone who doesn't know what E3 is, it's basically a massive gaming convention where all new games get announced. Now, it's bloody fantastic. Which, funny enough, in hindsight, when we and my mates went to America, actually, it was the last time that PlayStation was there, because the year after, PlayStation had left. So originally, it was PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. The big three. And the year later, it was only Xbox, Nintendo, and then they had to... it was only a digital event because of COVID, and then this year it was completely pulled all together, which was completely surprising by a lot of people. Summerfest, Gaming Summerfest that just happened, which I will get into that later on, was probably the next thing to replace everything that just happened. With the loss of E3, which was completely surprising. The fact that E3 was pulled this year. PlayStation left because PlayStation held their own event, even though they had a lot of room dedicated to them. Each their own. But for any E3 fans, it will be back. Also, speaking of gaming news, now this is going to be interesting how this is going to go down. And if you own a Samsung, then you're really in for a treat. Apparently, Xbox has teamed up with Samsung to create an app where you can play Xbox games without needing a console. You heard me correct. So I don't... Look, it could... I don't know how it could be done. I don't know if it's going to be linked to your Xbox or somehow, or how that's going to work, especially if you don't have a controller. But, each their own. It might not be like your AAA titles. It could be just more like your real basic ones that you could use on a remote. But, if they do make that without the console, then the TVs have to follow in. So that's going to be interesting how that's going. I have a Samsung right now, but don't know how that's all going to work in the big scale of things. But moving on, if any of you people are GoldenEye, James Bond, GoldenEye, big fans of the old game, you should be in store for a treat, because apparently a remastered version is coming to Xbox, because the achievements were leaked onto Xbox's website and quickly taken down. So it's rumored that in the next few weeks, Xbox will announce that they will be having a GoldenEye remastered edition to bring out to the masses, which would be bloody fantastic, because it was a great game, a great multiplayer game, and especially if it's a full remaster from the ground up, it could look fucking great. So definitely strap in for that if that's indeed the case. Also, what was one more gaming news? No, that's not the. We'll get into that. We'll get into that later on. But what we just also got announced was Ghostbusters Afterlife. We'll be getting a sequel because we just had Ghostbusters Day. That will be getting a sequel with a team returning to the old firehouse. No release date at this stage, but I'm all for it. Ghostbusters Afterlife was a fantastic movie, a great homage to the original first two movies, and nothing to do with the terrible, awful one with all the women. which was terribly bad, panned by critics. But Ghostbusters Afterlife was a great movie. If you check about 7 episodes back, I did my review for it back at the beginning of this year, which, oh my god, I can't believe the fact it's already June. Holy shit. Jesus. I can't believe that. It only feels like the other day that I filmed the first episode for the year. Funny enough, I recorded the first episode of the year, and I was talking about all the brand new DC films that will be coming this year. Bang! Pretty much a couple of weeks later, they announced they completely reshifted their entire movie slate. Of course they did. Thank you, DC. Thank you. Anyway, for any Ghostbusters Afterlife fans, a sequel is currently in the works. Also, for any Duke Nukem fans, apparently a movie is in the works from the creators of Cobra Kai. Now, Duke Nukem was a big 90s game, action hero kind of vibes, really big, didn't give a shit, would say anything, hail to the king, baby, balls of steel, like he was just the embodiment of an action hero. Unfortunately, his first few games were fantastic. They're right up there with Doom. However, Duke Nukem Forever, which came out and were made by Gearbox, that was in development hell for nearly about 15 years due to 3D Realms going under and everything. And surprisingly, at this stage, Gearbox still hasn't done anything with the property since they helped release that game. They're still pumping out Borderlands. But yeah, I think a Duke Nukem movie could be done right. 100%. I think it could be a big action movie set piece. I'll be interested to see how they take it, but it's long overdue. But I'm glad we're getting a Duke Nukem movie. Also, still staying on video games, the Grammys have included a brand new category, which is video game score. So now video games can be submitted to the Grammys to win. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to go and see what will get submitted. Because any games, you can go get the soundtrack, you can get the vinyl. There are some games out there that have an outstanding score, which is absolutely beautiful and is right up there with scores of movies. That should be more recognised. Even though I'm pretty sure the Grammys isn't something overly whelming you should get. I could be wrong. Please tell me if I'm wrong. But yes, you can now get video game scores. Grammys can be won. Also, God of War, apparently rumoured November release this year, ladies and gentlemen. So any game that's coming out in November, you're absolutely screwed if that's correct, because God of War is going to punch every motherfucker in the mouth of every game when that gets released. Apparently, the what's his name? The guy that does the voice for Thor. Apparently, he said in an interview that they're just doing their final touch-ups now. So an announcement should be coming soon. So stay tuned, guys, because as soon as it gets announced, I'm going to make sure you guys know straight away. And the last bit of news before we move on, for you Squid Game fans, Season 2 has been announced. No release date at this stage, but this is really nothing big. We knew it was coming. Squid Game did massively on Netflix. The highest streamed show on Netflix. A massive launch. Everybody was talking about this. So a Season 2 was an absolute no-brainer. But we just got our final full confirmation of it. And that will be coming out. Look, if it's just been announced, I'll take a stab and say mid to late next year. So if you're a massive Squid Game fan, then you're in store for Season 2. And there's more content on the way. I could see this going for like 3 to 4 seasons, but obviously that's all going to be depending how, if Squid Game was just a lightning in the bottle, or it's actually something that can sustain a longevity. And obviously that will all be, all depending on Season 2, and see how that goes. So as I said, I'd say mid to late next year, we will see that. So moving on, what we got in this past week was the Summer Game Fest of 2022. So this was basically the replacement for E3 because there was no E3 this year, as mentioned earlier. And there was so much to see in this 3-hour event. Honestly, we got to see some gameplay from games that have been previously announced, as well as we got to see brand new games get announced as well. So, look at that. We got gameplay for Street Fighter, Aliens Dark Descent, the Callisto Protocol, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Jesus Lee. We got some gameplay, Flashback 2, Witchfire, Fort Sodius, I probably butchered that, Outsiders, World Slayer, Routine, Stormgate, Super People, High Water, American Al-Qaeda, Goat Simulator 3, which was a good spin-off from the trailer. Trust me, if you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We also got a new gameplay trailer for Midnight Suns, the new Marvel game from the creators of XCOM, which the new trailer looks fantastic. Master of Puppets playing as the game song. That's bloody brilliant. Sorry, Ant, for that. Cuphead in the Delicious Last Course. Yes. Neon White, Midnight Fight Express, Star Rail, ZZ2, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Shredder's Revenge, Humankind, One Piece Odyssey, Soul Hackers 2, Metal Hellslinger, which I did post a couple of weeks ago, which it is basically you grab a gun, you're in hell, you gotta kill monsters to the tune of metal. So I'm sold, and bring it on. The Quarry, which just got released as well. For anyone who does follow Mark My Words, he's going to be bringing out a review on that. He's just picked up that bad boy. So definitely go check out his channel. He will be having a review right around the corner. We got Nightingale. Ugh. Nightingale. Can't read my own handwriting. Saints Row, which really was just showcasing their customization, which you can do right now. That's about it. That's getting released in August. Warhammer Dark Tide. We also got Layers of Fears, which looks absolutely terrifying. More gameplay of Gotham Knights. And probably the biggest talking point, I would say, from this entire thing is The Last of Us Remake, which not only is it not just a remaster, it's a full remake from the ground up, and it looks absolutely stunning. And what they've done to it is fantastic. I've just seen a few people mention the fact it's weird the fact that they brought out a remake when only a few years ago we just got a remaster. And then obviously comparing it to Skyrim and Grand Theft Auto 5. But look, I understand why they're doing it, but at the same time, did it really need to be done because he just brought the remaster? So if you haven't, definitely go check out the trailer for that. Check out the trailer for all these. What I'll be doing is I've already posted some on my Instagram, but what we're going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to highlight each one of these games on Instagram to make sure you guys are aware of it, the release date, what platform it's coming out on, and that will be coming over the next few weeks. So we're going to be pumping out and putting a spotlight on all these games that got announced. There was so much to see, and some games look fantastic, others look like a brand new horror, which I'm like, I don't know if I would play that. Other ones I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm not touching it. But I can't believe they're making Goat Simulator 3. I can't believe that's up to number 3. Like, Jesus. Aliens Dark Descent looks really cool. The Callisto Protocol, I did post on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. That is basically a spiritual successor to not Dead by Daylight. Oh, what is it? Dead by Daylight. I can see it. I can see Dead Space. Spiritual successor to Dead Space. Even though we're getting a remake of that in January as well. And seeing obviously Saints Row. That's coming out. So nothing overly massive about that. Nothing that one game that did get we got more gameplay of, but it's kind of got more backlash, is Starfield, which if you haven't already seen it, Starfield, which IGN have posted a comparison, literally just No Man's Sky 2. No joke. That's all it is. No Man's Sky 2. And nothing else. That's the scary part. Knowing the fact that, like, well, you just bring out this brand new game and it just looks like No Man's Sky. And the comparison video just proves that. So, and it got delayed too, as well. So that's going to be interesting when that comes out and how it's going to be received. Some of the games that also got announced, I was completely taken away from. I was like, whoa, okay. Like, High Water looks interesting. Routine looks terrifying. So, and obviously, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, we all know what we're in store for that. So, that's came out later this year. So, honestly, tell me, guys, you tell me, what was the biggest game that you were completely surprised about, taken away, or you thought, nah, that looks absolutely garbage, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole, or what game made you more excited as well to come out later this year? Because that's a plethora of what we've seen so far, which was a fantastic event. So tell me in the comments, what was your biggest highlight from the Summer Game Fest this year? Alright, so let's move on to the reviews. Ladies and gentlemen, yeah. Nah. So, we got the debut episode of Miss Marvel. We got episode with the latest episode of Kenobi and the latest episode of The Boys. Holy shit. Just holy shit. But I'll start with Miss Marvel first. So, little background. Miss Marvel, she got first introduced to the comic book world in 2013. She's only that old. Not only are we seeing her Disney Plus show, but we'll also be seeing her in the Miss Marvel's movie, which will be coming out with Brie Larson. So this series is just introducing how she becomes Miss Marvel and launching out from that point. So this will come with 6 episodes, and not to mention Miss Marvel also made a big debut and big main character, really, of the Avengers game. Sorry, the failed Avengers game that came out, I think, a year and a half ago now. She was the main character for that. So we're getting more tidbits of her backgrounds, and getting ready for her big movie debut. Now, this episode is definitely, it's get to know the character. It's definitely a coming of age. And the acting, I really liked. Nothing made me go cringeworthy. I love the animation style they do in the background, as well as, when they're texting or when they're coming out with ideas. Her imagination style, I'm really liking that aesthetics of the aspect, showing the fact, she's going through high school, just that mind, what goes through her mind. I guess it's just nice to see it in aspect of the fact that, we've just got Moon Knight, which was kind of like dark and brutal. It's good to see the flip side. Like, as I said, like, it's going to be good because right now, Phase 4 is looking like very dark, depressing, and gut-wrenching. So, it's nice to have something a little bit more warm-hearted. But, hey, I could be wrong. It's only episode 1, so I could be very wrong entirely. By the end of this episode, boom, this could be awfully depressing to lead into Miss Marvel. The Marvels. Definitely coming age story. Shows the fact that she gets her cosmic powers with her wristband, which, when she does get that, which she's at an Avengers Con, which I would, if there was an Avengers Con in Australia, I'd be right there. 100%. I'd be right there with Mark My Words and the rest of my mates. And we're going right now. A few years ago, we had a thing called Avengers Station come in the city, and it went through like all this memorabilia stuff and all about the Avengers, which really was probably for kids. It was definitely targeted for kids, but me and my mates went and we loved it. We had a lot of fun. It was actually quite funny because there was a guy talking and he was popping out questions, and I was like putting my hands straight away and going, I know what that is. And he was answering them, but he was also looking around the room for kids. And I was like, no, answer me. I can answer the question. Don't look at the kid. So that was a lot of fun to go to and just see all the different aspects, like Tony's armor, Captain America's bike, Thanos, different Captain America's shield, seeing all this different aspect. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, in the show, this Avengers Con, I would be so there in a heartbeat without a shadow of a doubt. And I love the fact that Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, is such a fanboy of the Avengers. So it's very resonant for everyone who is a big fan of this, obviously the MCU, so you can resonate with her on that level. We also found out the fact how the events of Endgame got out to the entire world was because of Scott Lang. He created a podcast called Big Me, Little Me, and he recalls the events of Endgame. So that's how it got out to everybody and how everybody knows about what happened. And, it does a good way of showing why she loves Captain Marvel the most, especially the beginning, which I really did love as well. So, look, to be honest with you, the episode was very solid. Acting was good. It was a good setup. It did leave you with enough to go wanting to come to an episode 2. Sorry, excuse me. I'm still trying to get over my COVID cough. So, yeah, that aspect I really did love. So how the episode did end, though, is that when she got her powers, she made a big mess at this Avengers Con, and her family obviously don't want to be up in the clouds. They want to be more down to earth, focus on your studies. Definitely coming of age story, that aspect of all things. And she now has these powers, and she wants to get right into them and use them. And I didn't know this. I didn't know this until a mate told me, but there was an after credits scene for this episode 1, and it shows 2 cops talking and showing a clip from Avengers Con of her, Miss Marvel using her powers, and it's the cop from Spider-Man No Way Home. He's in it. So it's going to be interesting what aspect that plays moving forward. So that's episode 1 done and dusted, and we're going to be getting obviously 5 more episodes. Rumor has it the fact that Haley Steinfeld, obviously Kate Bishop, she'll be making an appearance right at the end. That's a rumor that is very highly possible that she'll make an appearance, because honestly it makes sense. It makes 100% sense that she'll be in it and leading into the Young Avengers, 100%. But tell me, guys, did you guys like Miss Marvel, or you're like, nah, look, I'll just wait until all the episodes come out? It was nothing blown away. Or are you more like, look, I'm just watching The Boys and Stranger Things right now, which is completely understandable altogether. So moving on, let's get into Kenobi. Oh, quickly, Miss Marvel, Disney Plus, if you want to stream it. Kenobi, Disney Plus. Okay, so last episode of Kenobi. This was a filler episode. Please tell me you all agree this was a filler episode. There was points I did like. However, at the end I was like, okay, after this spectacular episode 3, this is a filler. So as we all know, Kenobi devises a plan to go infiltrate the Empire's security prison, which we do get to see him. What we get to see is the fact that he does get chucked into a Bacta tank to heal his wounds. The best thing about that entire scene is that when he gets chucked into there, after what happened with the events of episode 3, is that while he's in there, it's showing the fact that him and Anakin are really connected to the Force. That the fact that they're both having flashbacks with each other. They're so connected. And it wakes up Kenobi because he's so scared because he can see Anakin or see Darth Vader. So that was a good connection. And what we do see is a group of rebellion, helping people get away, goods and everything, get off the planet. So they help devise a plan to save Princess Leia. And then what happens is they do make that plan. They do get into the prison. Kenobi does, and the lady as well that we did see in episode 3 who's helping him, which originally she was meant to be played a love interest for actually Kenobi, but that was written out. There's a little tidbit I didn't know. I was like, I could see that. I could see that. And then obviously we do get to see Kenobi try and save Princess Leia. So, the biggest thing for this episode that I was like, oh my god, is that when Kenobi is going through this prison trying to find Princess Leia, he finds a room. Not only does he find a room, he finds a tomb. It is multiple Jedi in frozen carbonite. No joke. And there's characters from the Clone Wars, Rebels, and then just, if it wasn't enough, when Kenobi's looking through all of them, the last one is a youngling. It is a bloody youngling. Frozen in carbonite. So I don't know if that's from the beginning that we did see the flashback scene from episode 1, or he's the youngling from Revenge of the Sith. It's like, oh, there's too many of them, Master Skywalker, what do we do? But, you know, you're almost as horrified as Kenobi is seeing this. Because I was like, oh my freaking god, holy shit. Like, okay, that's got really dark. That was really, really dark. I was like, shit. So we do get to obviously see the aesthetics of this prison, big Jedi, Fallen Order vibes. There's also a scene when there's a hallway and the Kenobi is trying to stop from the glass from cracking, which does crack between the two hallway doors, and it floods. Big Jedi Fallen Order vibes. So we see that as well. We also get a wonderful scene where Kenobi is fighting with his lightsaber in a hallway, and you can see the fact he's getting reconnected with the Force, and he does this awesome flip with his lightsaber, which is straight from the prequel trilogy. You can still see that he's got the skills. He's still got, he can still do it. He'd still fight. Because he's getting reconnected with the Force, which I absolutely loved. I was like, yeah, boy, when I saw him do it. I was like, yes. And obviously he's saving Princess Leia from Reva, which apparently Reva is getting a spin-off series that's in the works. So all those people that have been doing all the hate mail, well, guess what? She's getting her own TV series, so you need to back the F off. Because she wouldn't get her own series if she wasn't good at playing a villain. Because she does an interrogation scene with Princess Leia, which is quite intense. And she's doing a good job. If you hate her as a character, which I was mentioning in the last episode, then you don't need to message her and do hate mail and all that. That's wrong. That's not what a fan base should do. There's also a really cool scene in it where when Kenobi is saving Princess Leia, it's all lights go down, it goes pitch black, and you could only see his lightsaber, and he scares the shit out of these stormtroopers, which is a great scene. So that's all. That was all fantastic. So I was right, definitely a filler episode, but it did have high points. Now, getting to the low points, the CGI of the lightsaber was all fantastic. However, the CGI of, I'm going to say this, a rebel ship firing at Reva was kind of iffy. It was kind of bad. And it was just watching, that's a little bit cringeworthy. And majority of the time, I think the CGI for the show has been good. That was the one point I was like, ooh, that kind of looks bad. The funny enough, the CGI with the lightsabers looks fantastic. It's just when they do the spaceships kind of stuff, I'm like, ugh. Like, I understand they can only do the best they can, but this is Disney money. This is Lucasfilm's money. So it should be better. Or, if it's not better, take the time. So that was a really bit of like a moment in all that. And then we got a very intense Darth Vader scene right at the end, where he's like, you've been warned! And he just starts force choking Reva, which was so intense. Loved it. You're showing the brutality of Darth Vader, which Reva does, unfortunately, doesn't get force choked because she planned a tracking device on Princess Leia's little robot, unfortunately. So they're tracking them right now. Because Princess Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi, they do get away for now. Now, there's 2 episodes left. Now, there's a whole rumor going around that apparently the next episode will have Clone Wars flashbacks, which, cool if they do. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but at the same time, if there isn't, I completely understand. Because, it's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, as in the title. So it's going to be interesting to see where the next 2 episodes go. But for me, this was definitely a filler episode. There were high points, but the CGI and the fact that you knew it was a filler, especially in the first 20 minutes, you're just like, oh, okay. So nothing major is going to happen. So it's going to be interesting where the next 2 episodes go. Obviously moving forward. See, the thing is, like I was saying this to a couple of people, is that, I am more excited for The Boys than Kenobi, because the fact that, obviously I love Star Wars 100%, but you know kind of where Kenobi is going to end, but you don't know where The Boys is going to end. So I'm, at this stage, more excited for, in order, I'd say The Boys, Kenobi, and Miss Marvel. Like, don't get me wrong, Miss Marvel I'm very interested for, because it's the MCU, but I'm more excited for Kenobi. And then I'm more excited for The Boys. But yeah, 2 more episodes to go for Kenobi. So, you're still with me? I thank you very much for staying for this long in this episode. I really appreciate it. There was a lot to get through. There was a lot of news, as I said in the past week, and I really appreciate it, especially hearing my voice. Me trying to clear my voice, and me having a COVID cough. So I applaud you. So let's get into The Boys, latest episode, season 4, which season 4 of The Boys has been announced. Hell yeah! I can't wait for that. I knew that was going to come. Fine enough, it's just seeing the fact that we're going to announce it when episode 4 came out. Duh. But yeah, episode 4 has been announced, so get ready for that. We're not going to see that until, obviously late next year. No joke. So, The Boys Season 4, which you can watch this on Amazon Prime. So, this particular episode, what we see is the team, obviously the boys go to Russia to go try and find the weapon. In the meantime, we see Starlight still trying to handle Homelander of that aspect. And then we also do see is the fact that when that's all happening, just the different sides, Homelander is still cracking underneath the pressure. He's very twisted. He's very twisted in that aspect. But, Soldier Boy arrives. We get Soldier Boy at the very end of this episode. He is here. Definitely. He's definitely in this episode. So if you watched it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But one of the standout for the episodes is that Kimiko, they do this mission, which they have to do before they can go to the factory to find Soldier Boy, is the fact that they have to kill this Russian person. Now, not only does she kill this Russian person, but she kills this Russian person with dildos. Yes. She sticks a dildo through his head, and this guy has a massive dildo collection of all the superheroes. No joke. No effing joke. And you see everything. She straight up, right through his eyeball, and murders him with a dildo. Okay. So I was like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's how you're gonna die. That's how you're gonna die. So the scene is very gory. It's action-packed. She does well done. It goes fantastic job. And then she actually gets shot. And I thought, oh wait, no. For a split second, I totally forgot that she could, heal. And she heals, but there's all these women that are completely afraid of her. I feel like Kimiko's story is being portrayed so well in this season. Is just the fact how much for someone who, can run faster, can survive, can heal doesn't want her powers. She doesn't want them. She just wants a normal life. She just wants a normal life with Frenchie. She doesn't want to have these powers anymore. And I think it's a really good reflection, if you have all this and seeing how she feels and how she's feared. So that's probably one of the biggest aspects I am loving of her character development in this episode. I can't believe it. Death by dildos. It's just ridiculous. Also, we do get to see Butcher takes another of the compound V. We do get that. He takes that, and not only does he take that, Huey takes the powers as well. So Huey gets powers, and that's a hilarious scene. He goes to kill somebody, has their heart in their hand, but unfortunately his clothes disappeared. So he has his cock out. So that's really funny. That was a really good scene. There's also a scene where we're at the end where they're shooting all these Russian people, and then Butcher runs out of ammo. They're pinned down, and then Butcher starts walking around slow-mo, killing all these Russians with his laser beams. And it's so funny. Mother's Milk is looking, going, "You bastard! I know what you've done!" And it's such a good scene of that. I love that aspect. So this is everything that's happening with the boys side of things. And then what they do is they do discover Soldier Boy, who's in this giant tank. They couldn't find the weapon. They find Soldier Boy, which he does walk out. He's a bit shocked what's going on. But then he turns and faces Frenchie. And he does this beam from the chest. Which you guys will also know what I'm talking about. Which Kimiko flies in front of Frenchie, saves him, and then Soldier Boy walks off. It's a massive beam, but it flings Kimiko away, so she's hurt. And then Frenchie's up there, she's trying to help her, but her wounds aren't healing, so her powers aren't working. Which makes me think that Soldier Boy, there isn't a weapon, Soldier Boy is the weapon. So whatever the Russians did to him, he's got the power to remove the compound V from someone. So obviously he's the weapon. So if he goes up against Homelander, he can take Homelander's powers straight away so he can be killed. So that aspect is got me so excited for moving forward on how it's going to play out. Is he going to be joining the boys? Is he going to be against the boys? Will he fight Homelander? Will he take Homelander's powers? And then will he become a bigger threat? So Homelander's going to join the boys, and then they're going to both fight Soldier Boy, and the Butcher's obviously still kill Homelander. But anything could happen, and this is only episode 4. We're at the halfway point. So excited. And also don't forget the fact that episode 6 is Herogasm. It's about a massive orgy. Don't forget about that. We've still got that in 2 weeks, which I'm really confused on how that's going to all play out. But that's how the episode ends for the boys. On the flip side of things, so Starlight is obviously trying to handle Homelander. We do see the fact that Stan Edgar, he's got a plan what he was going to do against Homelander with his daughter Victoria. Flip side of things, Victoria actually turns on him and says, puts all this bad stuff against him, and he gets arrested. So he's no longer in control of Vault. And interesting enough, he actually has a conversation with Homelander where he says, now that I'm gone, there's no one that can cover for you. And the world is going to see who you really are. Because Homelander came in to obviously gloat because he did something. But the thing is, the best line out of the entire episode was the fact that Edgar says to him, you are no god, you are no hero, you are simply bad product. And then he walks away because he says, you don't deserve my respect, you are simply bad product. And he walks away, and you see Homelander start to crack. start to crack because what he just got said. But he doesn't kill him. Doesn't kill him. I was surprised about that. I was like, okay, that's fine. But then Starlight is telling her, this new guy, the guy from the boy band, Supersonic, the fact they've got a plan to kill Homelander. But then he tells A-Train, because A-Train gets his ass handed to him by the Deep. And obviously A-Train can't run as fast because of his heart. But Homelander helps the Deep and not A-Train, because they have a meeting and A-Train wants to help the more African Americans. But they get shut down by the Deep because of what his girlfriend texted him. She's weird. The whole thing's weird. But Supersonic tells A-Train. So right at the end, Homelander flies Starlight and takes her to a building top and says to her the fact that, stop planning to kill me, it's not going to happen, it's my rules or nothing. And he points to the ground and he's completely slaughtered Supersonic with his beams. He's gutted like a fish from top to bottom. He's already dead because apparently A-Train told Homelander what they were planning to do. So at this aspect, the boys aren't too bad, but Starlight's by herself. She needs the help from Maeve, but she doesn't know who to trust now. She doesn't want to trust Deep, obviously. Can't trust A-Train. Homelander wants to be in a love interest with her. So she's going to explode, or she's going to do something that's going to be intense for the episodes come in. But that was a very intense scene, and I feel bad because we didn't get to see the guy's superpower. He's like, "Hi, I'm a new superhero. I just joined the Seven." Yeah, and then slaughtered and gutted like a fish in the corner. So that was real quick, unfortunately. Now that also did happen, and also we do get to see that Victoria, Huey's boss, starts injecting her daughter with Compound V. That was an interesting scene as well. When she was trying to give her daughter powers so she can protect herself. But it looks like it kind of like a harsh scene, and it really did hurt. But that's another thing as well. So overall, honestly, an absolutely solid episode. It makes me want to watch more. I'm so excited to see what happens with these characters. I feel for these characters and what's happening. The writing, the acting. Honestly, if you are not watching The Boys, you need to get on it right now. Amazon Prime. You can't miss it. Honestly, it's fan-bloody-tastic. It's got my seal of approval of this show. And, right now, 100% it's much more exciting than Kenobi and Miss Marvel at this stage. You never know, episode 5 could completely bomb down. So you can hold that to me. So that's my review of the latest episode of The Boys. Are you guys enjoying The Boys? Do you think it's too brutal? Death by dildo, is that a bit too much? Actually, that was death by multiple dildos. Was that too much? Do you find the show too gory? Or are you more like, I just enjoy the Marvel stuff? The more MPG stuff, which I completely understand. The Boys is very in your face kind of show. That's a big thing. I completely understand. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for joining this episode. And please do not miss out on next week's episode, the 1-year anniversary of Lights, Camera, Rant. As I said, I've got some guests coming. They're going to come say hello. I've got a lot planned for it. And it's just going to be fun. A good reflection on the past 12 months. 56 episodes, multiple business episodes, and guest episodes. There is so much that's happened in 12 months. It always brings a tear to my eye. And as always, guys, I thank you very much. And until next time, happy ranting.
Thanks for listening to Lights, Camera, Rant. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a rating and review, and be sure to tell your friends. Until next time, happy ranting.